Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Toon Under podcast. Today is the day the transfer window opened, and we are going to be doing a squad review, plus talking about some of the ins and outs of players that may or may not be coming in and out of the Toon. We will have a good rundown of everything that is being talked about on social media. And help me get through that today is Mark down in Brisbane. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing well. A bit starving because the other half has me on a health kick gut cleanse diet, which is interesting to say the least. But yeah, nice chilled weekend. The weather finally picked up a bit today, so just chilling out, enjoying the end of the season, not having those stupid o'clock in the morning starts and finishes because of watching the Newcastle games. So yeah, catch up on some sleep at the moment.
Yeah, I think we've got 12 weeks of long weekends to catch up on. So it's going to be a good few days where we just wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, hold on, I'm supposed to be watching football. No, let's go back to sleep. And I cannot wait. But we'll dive straight into this. But before we get into any of the actual transfers of anything else, going to do a mini squad review. We probably will do a more in-depth one as the season gets a little bit deeper in. But before we go through it, if you don't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up at the end if you like what you're seeing. And if you're listening on the audio, please give us a 5-star review and comment down below if you have any questions for any of us on there. And yesterday, Mark, I set you a challenge of putting our current first team squad players in a list of 3 categories. Those 3 categories.
Getting some homework on the pod now.
Yes, getting some homework on now, yes. You will be graded on these as well, so hopefully you get an A star at the end. But the 3 categories we've got are the untouchables, not for sale, but you never know, and we'll pay the taxi fare to get them there. So the first round of players, and you could probably all guess by this one, I'm going to bring them up on screen, and I'll read them out here for those who are listening. So for the untouchables, Mark, you have picked Trips, Botman, Shaw, Joe Linton, Tonali, Barnes. And there is an asterisk next to Barnes there, and we will come back to that one. Gordon, Isak, Hall, Tino, Pope, Byrne, Bruno, and Miley. Now, I didn't expect that list to be as long, but clearly you've got your reasons as to why. Want to explain who maybe even the spine of the team is in that one for you?
At this moment in time, without adding a new keeper, and I'm sure we'll touch on the discussions that everyone's having on social media at the moment, but you know, you've got Pope, Botman, probably now Bruno and Tonali, and then Isak up front. That's the basic spine of our team. But you've now got, you know, as much as I think Trippier's got to have some game time limited next season, and we've got to try and find a way to be professional, win games without him, which we seem to struggle with towards the end of the season, or at least maybe not struggled with, but certainly you felt his presence more once he came back in the side. We need to get Hall back in there. We need to have Tino at right back. It's as simple as that. You know, that is effectively a very, very good back five. Like Shah is just signed a new extension on his contract. Byrne just probably arguably player of the season just gone. So, you know, we've got a little bit of sort of stability there, but you know, even if we bring players in, those are the players that then become our depth of the squad. And that's the sort of talent and level that you really want for that sort of role. Miley, I think, is one for the future, but I'd be happy to have a loan maybe. But even then, you know, you'd be hoping that he gets some game time this season coming up. Barnes and Gordon, those are the ones that are kind of up in the air. I know everyone's saying Gordon's had his head turned by Liverpool and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, he had a very interrupted summer. He was a bit down in the dumps because of the way England tread him at the championships. So, look, he's probably got this bit between his teeth now, and I think he just needs to get that little bit of confidence back into his head, and I think we'll see the Gordon of old. I don't think he becomes a bad player overnight. I think he just needs to find that form, stop falling over for a start. Barnes is the interesting one, and we'll come back to that in the second list because I've put him in there as well because I can't quite make my mind up as to. I mean, for me, the left wing is pretty much solid. We've got Barnes and Gordon. But keeping both of them happy when they both want first team football all the time and play all the games is going to be a little bit tricky, a bit of a juggling act. But I don't see anybody in that list that I've put into the untouchables that we can legitimately do without. I think replacing them becomes a bigger headache than any amount of money that we get from them. So
Yeah.
That's basically my feeling. Is like it's less about would I be willing to get some cash for them, but it's more about how the hell do we replace them. And I'm talking about players like Shah, like Trippier, like Dan Burn, like Nick Pope. They've got the experience there, but in terms of being comfortable as kind of like maybe in that rotational option, I think they probably will be. They're coming to that stage of their career where, you know, they're probably happy to get the money, keep on playing. They all get a go at the Champions League. So yeah, it's more about how do we replace them if we got rid of them than anything.
Well, one of the players I just want to touch on there, and I wouldn't sell him for love nor money, but I know a few people have mentioned it across multiple platforms, is Botman because of his fitness levels and injury record as of late. Is he a player, do you think, that he could be on the more dispensable side of the untouchables, or do you think it's a huge summer for him, prove his fitness and get back to his best?
He 100% needs to prove his fitness. He needs to get back into the side and play regular football without breaking down. When he is playing and he's on form, we've already seen that. He is literally our Rolls Royce. He is absolutely rock solid. He is that rock at the back. Everyone complains that he's not quick, but he's actually a lot quicker than everyone gives him credit for. He reads the ball so well. He reads the game so well. I understand, like, do we cash in on him because his injury record's there? But then, you know, is he literally about ready to get over that? I mean, Lascelles has been out for the entire year as well. So
Yeah.
Botman's done well to come back when he has. And okay, he's had a few setbacks, but that's usual when you're coming back from that sort of injury, that long a lengthy layout, a layoff. He's always going to take a bit of time to kind of, you know, get his body back into it. So look, for me, I think if you sell Botman and then he goes and plays and gets a full fitness record elsewhere, you'll be kicking yourself. Maybe if he doesn't play a lot of games next season, then maybe, you look to try and cash in on him.
Well, I think what we paid 35 million for him.
Yeah.
There's on his day, you're not getting a defender as good as him for 35 million quid.
Not a chance.
Nah, not even close to that one. But I'd be more than happy to keep him around for the foreseeable. But I do think, due to his fitness levels and injury record, he's maybe the one who could be looking to move on out of those untouchables there.
To be honest, before we move on, I actually
do.
I've seen people suggest selling Joe Linton as well.
Really?
That he's getting more injuries and he's not able to keep up with the pace and the physicality of the game, and it's just like I'm not quite sure where they're coming from. It's like, yes, okay, he's getting on a little bit. He's age-wise, yes, he's maybe one of the sort of age brackets that you would think of maybe cashing in on, but not with what he gives to the team. And you're kind of wanting to add things into the team to give him some rotation in that side, so he's not having to play every minute of every game, and then therefore he's not having those injury problems. To me, I just don't understand where that one's coming from. I think he's every bit in that midfield three that is part of our success moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen towards the last few games of the season how different of an outfit we were when he wasn't playing in those games.
Yeah.
There is no player like Joe Linton in the Premier League. He is one of a kind. And I can't remember which Liverpool player it was now. I think it was Szoboszlai. He basically turned around and said he's the strongest player he's ever played against. He is an absolute beast. I don't think anybody would ever disagree with that.
Oh, no way. Have you seen the pictures of like when he first joined the club and what he is like now? He's literally like, it's as if he's been on the roids. It's like he's huge now compared to what he was. And I'm not suggesting he has been before anyone criticizes. But no, he's definitely hit the gym and he's bulked up and he's put on some muscle, and like he is literally just a mountain of a man right now and a bulldozer in that midfield. And I just don't see how you replace that in there unless you're going to spend an awful lot of money on more technical players that can kind of like compete with the Tonalis and the Brunos of the world to sit in that midfield. But I think there's still, in the Premier League this day and age, there's still a time and a place for a bulldozer like Joe Linton.
Absolutely. Could not agree more with that one. And anyone that does think he needs to go needs to give the head of a bit of a wobble, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's paramount to that starting 11 and will be for the foreseeable. So, I'm going to move on to the next category now. Next category is not for sale. And again, for those that are listening in, we've got Dubravka, Lascelles, Barnes, Kraft, Asula, Willock, and Longstaff. Now, these ones, yeah, and one name there I'm very surprised that he put in there is obviously Barnes, which we'll get to, but is William Asula. You'd be happy to see him move on, or are you thinking more of a loan deal with that one?
I'd be happy to see him get a loan move. Obviously, it's going to depend on who else we bring in the summer.
Yeah.
If Wilson's going to go and Asula is literally our only backup for Isak up front, then I definitely don't want him gone. But I feel he probably plays better on the right wing anyway than he does through the middle. So I just don't think he's quite disciplined enough to play that central lone striker role in that front three. Having said all that, I know people rave about him, and he scored a goal here and there, and he looks like he's a fun player to watch. But I keep going back to my original comment when I first saw him playing, and he looks like a Great Dane puppy who hasn't quite worked out how his legs work yet.
Yeah.
And I keep coming back to that because he just does not look. He's like Lua incarnate. He really is. He's like doesn't understand what he's doing. So the defenders don't, but he doesn't know what he's doing. His teammates don't know what he's doing. So for me, it's one of those. If somebody did offer us a decent chunk for him, then I'd probably take it. Certainly consider it. If it's not going to be a profit that we make on him, then obviously not, because he is that developmental piece. He's definitely not untouchable. So he was definitely going to be in this sort of not for sale, but if someone came in with a stupid offer for him, then I'd definitely consider it.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the loan deal with him on there, but again, I think it all depends on who does come in to replace Wilson. Now, you'll obviously notice Wilson's name is missing from this one, as are a few others that are out of contract. It's pointless talking about them because they're likely to go bye-bye anyway. I don't think Wilson's going to get that contract agreement that they're talking about where it's like an incentive-based thing. I think he's got too big of an ego to play on that type of contract, which all strikers have apparently. But the other one on that one there as well is Willock and Longstaff. Now, I'm going to talk about them in a little bit more detail a bit later on because both have been linked with moves away from the club. If we get rid of one, could you see we're getting rid of the other? Or is it a case of if we get rid of one, we have to keep the other?
I think if you get rid of one, it's a way to cash in on a very low down squad player. And I don't think, because of how thin our squad is already, I don't think you can sell the other. I think it's one or the other.
And if you had to pick which one to go, which one are you picking?
I'd probably pick Willock, just because I don't see his fitness record being very good at the moment. He's struggling to kind of recover from his major injuries, and he doesn't seem like the same player as he was before the main injury that he had. Now, Longstaff, I think his days are numbered. Let's be honest. I think his form really picked up under Eddie Howe. He knew what he was doing, but I think his confidence has gone now, and I'm struggling to see how he gets back to the stable Longstaff when everyone's so intent on criticizing his any mistake. Like, he can be absolutely great for 90 minutes, but he'll make one mistake and then everyone slates him for it. I just don't think he can win at the moment. So his time's probably better off spent elsewhere. I don't know which one we would get the most money for, but I'd probably take that and then deal with the other one.
Well, I think one of the reasons why I would keep Longstaff over Wilkes, or the same boat as you, is the homegrown quota for European football. That's going to be another big thing as well, because we are borderline with. I can't remember the exact numbers that we need on that, but obviously Longstaff coming through the academy, he's nailed down for that. Not a problem at all. But yeah, there are other names you've got there. Dubravka, Lascelles, I'd be happy to keep around purely just because of his influence in the dressing room, just like Cripps, that sort of thing. And you can't have that type of person walk at the club after his big injury layoff as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let him have his season in the sun, then he can walk away if he wants to. That's why I'll go on that. But again, if bid comes in, happy to accept. Now, The final one, this is where I've got a little bit of fun on this one, is basically we'll pay their taxi fare. The names we've got on this one, we've got Target, Vlachodimos, Gillespie, Ashby, and the long-standing resident Isaac Hayden, who is still on the club's book somehow, and he's still got 2 years to go on his contract, I believe.
That's just insane.
Matty Target is probably the obvious one to pick out there because he's the only one that is actually part of the first team picture. Vlachodimos and Gillespie, they're never going to be anywhere near the first team bench unless there are some serious injuries. Ashby's been out on loan since day one, and Hayden's had his day in the sun again, just like Lascelles, and he's never going to return. So what's your thoughts on Matt Target, and do we not need cover for left back just in case Hall gets injured again?
Yes, we do. I think the fact that Tino has filled in there so well, and Dan Burn at a push, and I know everyone's going to moan at that thought, putting Dan Burn back at left back, but he can fit in there at a push. So, yeah, to me, I think if you're going to sell anyone for a bit of money, hopefully it's Matty Target. I just don't see him ever getting back into that side.
Yeah, I think since he'd done his hammy in I think it was season gone last in that Man United away game in the League Cup, I think it was, he's never even looked the same player when he's come on and made the odd appearance in the Cup. He can't cross his fingers, let alone a football anymore. So I'll be happy for him to move on. And we do have cover in there, even though we've got no natural left backs himself. Tino, as you said, has done a tremendous job in covering. And Dan Burn can step in there if absolutely needed to.
Well, Trippier can as well, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the likes of Ashby, bit of a weird signing that one, to be honest. 2 million from West Ham. And I think we signed him, was it only 6 months later we got Tino?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so obviously Tino is the favourite out of the two by a considerable margin. And Isaac Hayden, as good as a servant he has been for the club, was there with us through the very, very dark times. His time at a club must come to an end this summer, you'd think. Take what we can for him.
Yeah, I'd be willing to kind of let him go on a free, to be honest, just get his wages off the book if he's happy with that. Look, I've got absolutely nothing against Matty Hayden. Isaac Hayden, sorry. Matthew Hayden's the cricketer. Sorry. Crossing over sports there. No, look, Hayden's been a really good servant to the club. He's never sort of once complained. He's never put his nose out. He's never gone on strike to force a move. He's always, he made it clear that he wanted to leave because of family reasons. And it was like legitimate reason that he had. It was like he wanted to get back to London because of his daughter and stuff like that. So fair play to him, but he never once stopped playing for us through all that time when the deals couldn't go through. He still put in huge performances for us, and he's part of that team that got us back into the Premiership in the first point anyway. He's had some big injury problems as well. I'd look, yeah, if we can get him off the books, then all well to him, but he can't just hang around forever. Thanks, Mark Ashley.
Yes, I think he'll be in the club. It'll be close to 10 years now, or if he sees out his contract with us. So, yeah, he needs to go, but thank you for your service. But it is time to move on that one for him. But now we're going to talk on about the actual transfer window itself. In the two names I mentioned before, in Joe Willock and Sean Longstaff. So Willock has been linked loosely with a move to Fulham, which I think if anywhere he's going to go back down to London. I think that's just his preference on that one. And the talk is it's a £25 million fee, which, to be honest, if that is the case, I would snap your hands off 25 million for Willock. That's what we're paid for him. So we're basically cancel out that transfer and we get a little bit of cash in the bank, because I'd imagine that deal's done with now. We've paid that fully off. And Longstaff is between, I think it's Everton and Leeds. They're rumoured with a 10 million plus fee to come knocking on our door anytime soon. But as mentioned before, I'd rather keep Longstaff over Willock, even if it does mean a higher financial gain with a pure profit transfer. Do you reckon Willock is one of the favourites to go this window?
Yeah, look, it's the silly season again. It's already started, hasn't it? The in the know wankers are all out in force, like people who are just I personally don't understand how you get a kick out of just making random shit up pretending that you know what's going on just to get some attention and get some likes and clicks, you know. And I mean, we're not the biggest podcast around. We enjoy what we do, and we love the people who follow us and interact with us. It's really good to have, but we don't have a wider audience because we don't play the game, so to speak. We're not ITK wankers. We don't sort of like wind people up intentionally. We have a bit of fun with stuff, but we're not going to like go out of our way to be overly controversial or just to get a couple of extra followers in. They're not the sort of people that we really aim at anyway. So look, it is draining trying to keep up with all of the gossip and all of the rumor mill that's going around, particularly on social media. I try to limit how much I invest in that these days, because I think for Newcastle fans, the transfer window has just become an absolute ball ache as opposed to something that we're excited about. Most transfers that we have had under the new ownership have really come out of nowhere. They've not been talked about at all until they've signed, and then it was like, oh well, where did that come from? There's been a couple that were a little bit more protracted, like, you know, Hall, Tino, things like that. But, you know, Tonali came out of nowhere. Isak came out of nowhere. You know, we tracked Botman for a while, but again, we were told that he was on his way to AC Milan, and then all of a sudden he's our player. So Bruno came out of nowhere. So yeah, I've got faith that our owners will not be telling people what their plans are, and so the past history kind of suggests that most of the accounts that are online are just talking shite. So yeah, look, I take most of that with a pinch of salt. I am hopeful that Willock will be the one to move. I cannot say that I'm 100% convinced about it, but if he moves for 25 million, that is an absolute like great bit of business for us. I think he's still capable of being a very good player. Don't get me wrong.
He is, yes.
I just think he needs a run of fitness and a run in the first team, and I don't think he's going to get that run in the first team at Newcastle at the moment.
Yeah. His time and appearances will be limited with a midfield that we have. It's just a little bit overcrowded for him now. But the transfer window is now actually officially open. It's a weird transfer window, this one, because of the Club World Cup, whatever they call it. So it's open today from the 1st of June, closes again on the 10th for players to sign for clubs compete in said Club World Cup. It then closes for 6 days, then reopens again until the 1st of September. Have you ever done anything so absolutely stupid in your entire life?
It's just more like cartel pandering, isn't it? Really, it's basically opening it up for them so that they can use the excessively large amounts of money that they're going to get to spend and float other clubs of their talent, while other clubs are not actually able to do anything. I find the whole thing absolutely ludicrous. It's like, surely a transfer window is open for everyone, or it's not open at all. And why it closes again before it then reopens is just anyone's guess. It's just they're just making shit up as they go these days. The people that make the rules.
Yeah, I mean it's only closed for 6 days. I mean,
yeah. So
really,
what's
just
the
have
point?
it open.
Like, what is the point?
Just keep it open. Now we've already seen clubs already doing business before the window was even open. So Man United have apparently got a deal with the shit house that is Cunha. Liverpool have signed Frimpong from in Germany, and Chelsea have apparently got a deal for Liam Delap matching his release clause of 30 million. Is a little bit worrying yourself these clubs doing business early, and you got a fear of us being left behind already?
It's the usual suspect. I mean, Liverpool, I think, are doing some very good business. I'm glad they're spending all their money and it's not on Isak, so that's one positive thing. Look, to me, it's still ludicrous how Chelsea managed to keep on spending. You know, they're out spending everyone, and just, you know, as I think we said the other day, they'll sell their wheelie bins to their own company to do the garbage with or something to clear PSR again. It's just how nobody has stepped in there and done anything. I do not know, but Man U, yeah, again, they're continuing to try and spend money. It's the usual suspects though, isn't it? Like, I'm concerned that we can't ever get deals done quickly, and I think for this particular bit of the window, I'm not stressed about because I don't think we can bring anyone in anyway. But I don't understand why we can't get players lined up already and do the business, get the deals on the table, everything signed off, and then they just transfer over as and when the window officially opens. Other clubs are doing it. We always seem to wait. And I've said on our group chat, I'll be very disappointed if we don't sign anybody before the financial deadline, the financial year PSR
I was going to ask
deadline.
you that. Yeah.
Surely, as fans, I think we all kind of comforted ourselves with the massive gamble that luckily has paid off, but we all knew it was a gamble in January not to bring anyone in, not to strengthen the squad. Luckily, it's paid off in that we still managed to scrape 5th place and get the Champions League, despite cocking things up in the last 2 games. Look, the only thing that we told ourselves because of that was we're keeping our powder dry. We're going to be in a great financial position with PSR and financial fair play or whatever the hell regulations they want to throw at us. We should have the money to spend. Other clubs are going to need to sell to be compliant. So why can't we take advantage of those clubs like other clubs took advantage of us last year? If we don't do that, then I think questions will be asked, and probably rightly so as well. We need to get moving quickly. Obviously, the fact that we've just lost our director of football just before the transfer window opens has not
So
eased
Newcastle
fans.
United.
It is. It's like nothing's ever easy with us. We've got this. We've got this sort of like complex about just sort of shooting ourselves in the foot. And I think Mitchell leaving when he did, I think it's just all the fans have just gone, whoa, hang on, how's this going to affect everything? So if this all makes a big impact in terms of our transfer business, then I think the fans are going to absolutely kick off.
Well, he's still here for a decent chunk of the window. So you've got those first 10 days. And then from the 16th onwards, I think he leaves at the end of June. I don't think there's a specific date set, but call it, say, last day of June. It still gives them time to maybe get 1 or 2 players in, or maybe the original transfer plans with him have been scrapped and they've now gone to list B, whatever you want to call it. Who knows? But time will tell on that one. Now, in terms of importance of this window, I would probably say this is as big, if not bigger, than that very first window, that's winter window, when the club got taken over. What's your thoughts on that? Do you agree, or do you think it's not quite as important?
I think it's more important by a long shot as well. Okay. I think when we were taken over, we were in the shit. Let's not beat about the bush. It's like we were well and truly in the mire. We had relegation staring us in the face. We were rock bottom when Eddie Howe took over. He performed a small miracle. Yes, he had some reinforcements. He got the players that made the difference in terms of Bruno in particular, Chris Wood. I mean, I know people slate him, but he did his job. We needed a striker, and he did his job and helped keep us up. Kieran Trippier was absolutely phenomenal in that window.
Yes,
I think we probably could have rebuilt quite nicely in the Championship had we gone down. I don't think the owners were adverse to the idea of actually doing a rebuild in the Championship, and I think maybe it would have gotten rid of a bit of dead wood that we had. Yes, it was important to stay up. It made everything a lot quicker. Now, in the right here and now, this window, we need to be good in this window. We need an effective window. We need to strengthen, and we need to be able to push on. If we don't have a good window and we stagnate, the biggest risk is losing our star players. And I think that to me is the big thing. It's not so much even, we're going to win the league, or we're going to compete in the Champions League, or we're going to win another cup next season. It's if we don't strengthen, if we don't continue to push and try to compete at the very top, I think some of the players will get a little bit jaded, and rightly so. And I think we need to prove to the players as much as the fans that everything's moving in the same direction still, and that we're still trying. Like 3 windows without a major signing, I think everyone's just a bit like, you've got something to prove now. There's no excuses. The money should be there. The ambition needs to be there to match the fans, the players, the coach, the manager. So yeah, for me, it's hugely important because I think if you don't, I think players will get their heads turned next summer when we don't have Champions League or we don't have another cup or we're not really making any strides forward. We just can't afford to stagnate or go backwards. Otherwise, yeah, we're going to be really struggling.
Yeah, it's of significant importance. And again, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just talked about on that one. Now, we're not going to talk about areas of improvement in the squad because I think it's all well documented, the areas that need to be improved. It's been, 18 months, maybe even 2 years since we've needed certain players in certain areas. But we're going to talk about the names that are linked with Newcastle. 3 names. One of them is our old friend from last summer, and that is Mark Gahey, the never-ending transfer saga that still seems to be going on and on and on and on. With Palace being in Europe now they've won the FA Cup, do you see this transfer being just as difficult to do as it was last summer if we are even still interested?
I don't think it's got anything to do with them being in Europe. I think it's got everything to do with Parish still being in charge. The guy's just an absolute moron. He just likes being in the papers by all accounts from last time. So for me, I think it needs to be done quickly or move on. I think you offer them what they say they want, and if they turn it down and he starts playing silly buggers again, then you just walk away. There's other options out there, and as much as I feel Mark Gahey is a really good fit for the club, I think the club obviously have identified everything, and they're going after players that fit a very particular set of skills. It's like kind of Liam Neeson style. That they want to have those players that tick the boxes in the right areas to fit into their side and the way they want to play. Mark Gahey does that for the club, absolutely. But I don't think you can spend all summer chasing him. It's just not on. And especially if you're going to get dicked about, you just come out of it with egg on your face as much as anything. I think it's just not a good look for our transfer dealings if we're going to be messed about again.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. I don't know how long Gay's got left on his contract and whether he intends on winding it down or what. But yeah, I think he'll be a player that we will approach again this summer. And like you said, it'll be a take or leave it offer. And, slam the door, right, okay, we're no longer interested. Let's move on to player B effectively. The other player of the 3 is Espanyol keeper John Garcia. I think he's a 22, 23-year-old upcoming keeper who may or may not be signing for his rivals, Barcelona, and Espanyol and Barca are bitter rivals as well. So I can't imagine these current fans are going to be overly impressed with doing that. From what I've been reading, it is a case of they have accepted the buyout clause, which is 21 million euros, I think it is. Barca have bid that amount. The club have said yes, but it's now up to the player to make the decision. And apparently the player is hanging out for a Premier League club to match that bid. He'd much rather come to the Premier League than join his bitter rivals, Barcelona, which, to be honest, unless you're Sol Campbell, there's not many players that are going to make a jump to that kind of a rival. Maybe Carlos Tevez when he left Man United to go to City. It doesn't really seem to happen as much now. But if he wants to keep his place in the folklore of Espanyol, where I think he was their player of the season, he'll probably jump ship and come to the Premier League. There are a number of clubs after him. We were talking literally about this in our group chat before we came on about actually needing a new goalkeeper, and it's something that we probably kind of do, not season coming up, but the one after.
Yeah.
And how do you see this playing out? Do you think Pope is still going to be number 1, even if we do bring in this young keeper?
Yeah, I'll come back to the Spanish keeper in a bit because I'm less convinced than everyone else seems to be.
Okay.
But I don't believe we need to necessarily. I think if we go into the next season with Nick Pope as our first choice keeper with a decent backup, I don't see the problem with it. Yes, we all know that Nick Pope has some deficiencies. To me personally, a keeper being able to play the ball out from the back is a bonus. You want him to be a good shot stopper and command his box and all of that first. First and foremost, he's there to keep the ball out of the net, not to try and initiate attacks. That's an extra bonus. So Where this hate for Nick Pope comes from, I don't quite understand. I think he's been an absolutely fantastic keeper for us.
Yes.
I think when Dubravka came in for him, when he was injured, when he had the shoulder injury, I think we saw the defense was just all over the shop because Dubravka wasn't playing the same way as Nick Pope does in terms of being a sweeper keeper, allowing the defense to push up more. It was leaving more space in behind. They were getting done for pace over the back, things like that. So I'd be probably more inclined to get a young keeper, as you said, to take over from Pope probably next season. At least sort of share some responsibility this season, maybe get more of the games next season with the view to kind of being the #1 keeper the season after that. Onto the Spanish keeper, though, because I was always really skeptical about this from day one. It's like the Spanish media have this habit of over-dramatizing stuff, which is effectively their way of selling the player and trying to drum up interest in them. And I have a feeling that Newcastle, I have not seen anything indicating that Newcastle are actually interested in him. It's been this fan generated hype around this Spanish keeper. And yes, he may be a really good keeper, but I don't see him wanting to go to Barcelona because by all accounts, Barca just want to buy him and then loan him straight out. And that I think is what he's more upset about. I'm not sure he's as I don't know. Maybe he is quite loyal to Espanyol and doesn't want to play for Barcelona at all. But if he's made his mind up that he wants to come to the Premier League, then I don't see there being a shortage of clubs wanting him. But I don't know how many top clubs are in for a keeper this season. I suspect maybe we've been used by agents and the media to drum up some more interest, which would not be the first time Newcastle's been used for those sorts of things. But yeah, I've not seen anything in terms of linking that player with the club. I have seen a lot about the club being linked to Trafford. So yeah, take of that what you want. There is obviously some hype around this keeper, but I personally, I'm not putting a lot of stock in it. I think it's all been fan hype because, yes, we would like him, but I don't know if the club's actually interested in him.
Yeah, well, time will tell on that one. With the Trafford deal, I think it'll be a little bit harder to do now. Burnley are back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think the club were kind of hoping they would maybe fail in the playoffs and get him on the cheap, but that's obviously not the case.
Yeah.
So, again, time will tell. See what happens in the goalkeeper department. I don't think it's a position that we need to rush out and make a rash decision on or anything like that anytime soon. But the next one, and the biggest name out of all three of these, and this is a player that I've been banging on for months and months, and maybe even the best part of 18 months to 2 years, and that is Brentford winger Bryan Mbeumo, however you want to pronounce it. This player is probably the second best right winger in the Premier League, maybe third, next to Mo Salah and Jacob Murphy, if you want to, in terms of consistency. Next season just gone. Now, he is a player who would come in and instantly improve our starting 11.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's the statement signing that I think we've all been waiting for since the takeover. And I know we've obviously spent 63 million on Isak, but there was still some, it wasn't like this big hype where he's this Premier League proven player and he's going to make this immediate impact. I think his impact was probably quicker than I think everyone was expecting it to be. Now he's one of the best strikers in world football and everyone wants him. So yeah, sucks to be you guys. I think Mbeumo really does offer that really good package of assists, goals, dribbling. He tracks back, he works hard. There's some question marks I've seen raised about how good he would play with Alexander Isak. And I think some people have questioned that their styles don't quite mesh properly and there may be some issues. Surely that's just a case of just spending some time on the training ground and working out each other's games. I mean, they're not playing in the same side, so obviously they're not going to be playing the same sorts of games and the same sorts of style of football. To me, that's where Eddie Howe makes his money, is making those sorts of things work. But buying a Premier League proven player, he's like 25, isn't he? So he's still got 25 or something. Yeah. So he's got plenty of years ahead of him. He's still going to be improving. He terrorizes defenses. In a mid-table Brentford side, he has excelled. He's like, 20 goals and 7 assists or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He can play right wing for us. He can kind of probably fill in just behind Isak. He can probably fill in for Isak up front on his own if we need to. He did that when Tony left. So yeah, I think that's the big statement signing, and I think it massively improves us instantly going forward. And it's the sort of signing that we desperately need to make going into next year's Champions League as well. We need to elevate the first team up a little bit. There's still plenty of talk about squad depth, but I think improving the first team, he's a player that desperately does that straight away.
And I know before you mentioned about the Spanish keeper, about it mainly being fan hype, and we want to be respectful to Brentford, because we knew how frustrating it was.
Yeah.
Every single day, Isak being linked to Arsenal, and it was Pistons off left, right, and centre. So we don't really want to go down that path there. But do you think it's more of the fan hype that we're interested in Mbeumo, or do you think there is genuine interest from the club?
I think there's genuine interest. I think Brentford know. I think Brentford know that there's genuine interest in him, just because of the comments of their manager, and he's effectively said, "Look, it'll take a lot of money, but we're kind of aware that we're probably going to have to sell him." That to me is the difference. It's like, look, as far as I'm concerned, until he is signed for anybody, he is a Brentford player. I'm not, as you said, we don't want to be disrespectful, because we know all too well that we're bigger than you, we can spend more money than you, so we can just take whoever we want kind of mentality, which we're not trying to be, but we have money to spend, and if we can make that signing, then it would be huge. So it's more a case of, we would love him. He is an absolutely amazing player. We're showing him respect for that. But the deal still needs to be done. And if that doesn't get done, well, he's not our player. We need to move on to plan B, plan C. But for me, I think the comments of the manager indicate they're probably open to selling for the right amount of money. I just hope, and I said this in the group chat the other day, I will be royally annoyed, shall we say, if PIF buy out Bruno Fernandes, fake Bruno, for 100 million and bail Man United out, and they use that money to get Bryan Mbeumo, and we miss out because they've now got an easy out from our owners. I know they've not, they've got multiple fingers in multiple pies as PIF, but you've got to be feeling at some point they need to stop helping out direct rivals in the Premier League to us all the time, and let us do some business first before helping all the others out. That's starting to get a little bit annoying for the fans now.
Yeah, it is, and I do think we will end up with Mbeumo, and I hope it's earlier in the window so he can get bedded in. He can go off to the tour in the Far East, get to know these players, gelling well, and start the season the way he ended there, the last one. I would love him to be at the club. I think he would be up there with a signing, like you said, close to Isak, Tonali, that sort of thing. He's definitely the type of player that we are hungry for. And how do you think Murphy is going to feel about that, though, if he does come in? Because Murphy, he's had the season of his life, but do you think Murphy accepts his position in the squad?
I think it'll be harsh on Murphy. I think he'll probably accept it, though. He's still going to get game time, isn't he? He's still going to play games. We're going to have more games than we know what to do with. We're going to have to do squad rotation. Players will play games as long as they're in that squad and they're performing at a decent level. Murphy didn't play much because Miggy was playing ahead of him, and then he got his chance and he grabbed it. And we all know Eddie Howe doesn't like changing a winning side. So if we do end up with Mbeumo, then he needs to perform. And if he doesn't perform and Murphy comes in and starts performing and we win games with Murphy, and then he's probably going to keep his spot no matter how much we pay for Mbeumo.
Yes, hopefully that is one that we can pull off. Of the three players mentioned, he would be my first choice without a shadow of a doubt, and I reckon he'd be every other fan's too. But hopefully it is something that we can pull off sooner rather than later, get a player in or two before the first stage of the window shuts and then reopens again on the 16th. But we will leave it there, Mark. Thank you very much for joining me. Again, if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up, give us a follow and a subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on the audios if that's how you're watching as well. We will be back with another video, not sure when and not sure what on. Maybe it'll be breaking news on the transfer window. Who knows? But fingers crossed, we've got something positive to tell you all very shortly. Thanks again, Mark. I'll see you on the next one.
Take it easy, mate. Catch you later.